Welcome to Series 3 of Sensitive Changemakers, the podcast for ambitious HSPs and introverts. So if you're a sensitive, introverted coach, therapist, creative, or service provider with big dreams, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Kate Carter, a fellow HSP and introvert who understands the unique challenges and incredible strengths we bring to the table. In this space, I'm here to help you embrace your sensitivity, release the anxiety and self-doubt that may be holding you back, and build the confidence to create success on your terms. If you're ready to step into your quiet power, align your business with your true self, and live a life of intention, purpose, and authenticity, then this is for you. Let's dive in. Hello, just a very quick note from me. So the recording of this, Miriam sounds amazing, our guest speaker. However, I don't sound so good. I'm not sure if it's the microphone or not. I've tried to fix it as much as I can, but I wanted to share it anyway because it is such a valuable episode. So I hope it doesn't ruin the experience. Please do enjoy. Hello and welcome to Sensitive Changemakers. I hope this episode, as always, finds you well. And I am very excited because I do have a guest on today, which has to happen for a while. So I'm very, very excited to welcome Miriam. And Miriam is a German expat. She is London-based. She's an entrepreneur and a mum of one. And she is on a mission. And I know we're going to get into this further into the episode. I'm very excited because we've not had anything like this before. But she is on a mission to rehumanize corporate culture worldwide, with a speciality in driving high performance in both teams and individuals. And she is really, really passionate about supporting others to do this well as well. So Miriam, welcome. Is there anything you would like to add to that? Thank you so much for being here.
Okay, thank you so much for that kind introduction and for having me on here because when we first met, I probably chewed your ear off about my missions. And so I'm really grateful for this opportunity to be here and share about this vision that I have to change corporate culture literally around the world, to turn it from something that most people associate with toxic and negative, something positive. So I'm looking forward to talk about that.
Yeah, it's such, I think, such a unique perspective and something that is so very needed in the world today. And I would love to know how you got to this place. So what's your background? What has led you to this mission?
Well, actually, I kind of fell into a corporate background by accident. Um, my family, they were all academics and journalists, so no corporate career. And when it came to me, like, looking for a job after university, I came across this thing called business advisory, and I thought, oh, that sounds good. I like telling people what to do, which that's what I thought it was. And what it actually turned out, it was a graduate scheme that the big four consultancies do, where they train you as a chartered accountant, and you advise businesses. And it turns out that even though I had no business background whatsoever, I studied history and politics, so nothing in that field at all. I quite enjoyed looking at how people operate inside of big organizations. And because of the place I worked at, I got to go into a lot of big, big companies, and like companies that you will have heard of, like huge organizations. And what really struck me is that on the outside, they look all so glitzy and so fancy. And on the inside, they're just humans in there. They're just people. And I've always been somebody who loves people watching. So I enjoyed that very much, just observing how people interact. But I also noticed how so many people are just stuck in not very good situations. And it obviously took me a few years, but to realize that, well, these people, they're not bad people. They're just stuck in dynamics and structures that are not very healthy. And I thought, oh, well, if it's not because people are evil, because they're not, people are, the vast majority of humans are actually good humans. I thought, if it's just the structures and just the processes, that can be changed, right? That's it's not written on a stone tablet anywhere. We can change that. So that's how I ended up doing what I'm doing now, which is helping change these structures, helping change these processes, helping change what keeps people stuck in unhealthy situations in organizations.
Wow, that is quite the mission, isn't it? And kudos to you to having that and going with it and not thinking. As you were talking there, I was like, so many people would have probably got to that stage and thought, do you know what? This is too big. It's
Mm.
it's stuck. It's not changeable. We can't do anything with this. But you went in with it and thought, it's not the people, it's the processes. We can change that. How can we change that? And I just love that openness to doing the work and to actually digging a bit deeper into something that is really quite complex and also quite integrated, isn't it, into society and into what people think jobs are about.
Yes.
So how have you found that? How have you found it trying to change something that's quite, I would imagine a lot of people are kind of, for a better word, stuck in their ways and in those
Yeah,
processes. How's that been?
absolutely. I mean, a lot of people, we all, a very wise mentor explained this to me. I knew it, I just couldn't verbalize it. But when she explained it, I'm like, yeah, that's it, exactly. We all run on autopilot most of the time. And I know you know that I had to learn that, but we all have a programming that we just run every day. And if you think about it, it's true. We all put like one sock on after the other, normally one, always the same foot first, and so on. And that drives our behaviors. And when it comes to behavior at work, most of us, again, just run on this autopilot that has been shaped by the structures and very often by the way organizations incentivize workers, but also just by societal expectations, by the way how we see, you watch a movie and they just, describe work. I was recently watching 9 to 5, that old film with Dolly Parton. And it was,
I love it.
I know, but this is exactly, it's just such a, it's a fabulous film, but it just gives all the cliches, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's because we expect work to be like that, we all go along with that. So it's a self-reinforcing
Okay.
circle. And what I realized though is that big changes happen not because you make big moves. A lot of times, actually, most of the times, big changes happen after you make a move, after having made lots of small moves along the way.
Mm,
So the way I think of it is that, if you look at Sir Mo Farah, he didn't
mm.
start out being this amazing, incredible runner. I've actually seen him, like, I've run in a marathon with him.
Oh, really?
Well,
Oh,
no,
amazing.
he was finished before before I started, but that's a different story. That's not one I normally say. But like you look at people like that, and they didn't start out doing that. They made lots and lots and lots and lots of little changes, little steps, and that is true. And I thought, well, when it comes to my mission, we can all make the little steps.
Mm.
And at some point, you get the snowball effect and it becomes big enough. And you create, the big change is created. Maybe it's you who does the trigger, maybe it's somebody else, doesn't matter. But everybody can make those little changes.
Yeah, I am so for small changes. I think I was having this conversation with a client last week, and I was saying so many of us, especially if we're highly sensitive and
Mm.
introverted, we see all these people making big change and doing drastic things.
Yeah.
And I was like, but it doesn't make it any less powerful if we get there through small steps.
Yeah.
Like the change will happen. And my argument to my client was saying, I truly believe that if you take those more small steps, you sustain it and it's more long lived than if you take those huge jumps and do all the sexy things and it looks all good on the outside, but
I
doesn't necessarily sustain.
I 100% agree. And I often use like running analogies. I'm actually not very fast or go very fast, but
Me neither.
I really love it. However, if you had told me 10, well, 20 years ago that I would run a marathon and things like that, a half marathon, then I would have like, no, you're crazy. But it was taking the small steps, and the first run was literally a mile. And I see that everywhere. And I'm quite lucky to know a few people who have achieved incredible things, you know, multimillionaires, and all of them will tell you that they it wasn't the big moves. Yeah, they made some big moves at some point, but they had worked their way up to that big move so that they could hold that big move.
Mm.
Because I'm sure you know that feeling that, you know, like if you've got a big move to make and you're not ready, your nervous system goes all crazy, you know, you go into the fight and flight
Yeah,
response. And it's not, you know, this is not what you want, and you can't, that's not how you can live a life.
yeah, yeah. It's not sustainable, is it? And it's such an important part, and it's, I think, often gets overlooked, isn't it? People just go, you just got to do, just go and do, and you forget that actually, if you don't have the inner support
Yeah,
for those changes, you can often end up going like two steps backwards rather than that one step forward.
absolutely. So every successful person and every successful change that I've ever seen, if you look behind the curtain, you see that there's been a build up to
Mm.
actually laying the foundation. And that might not be the obvious foundation, but it, you know, it always has to include the inner resilience to actually hold that change, to actually do this, even though it still feels really scary.
Mm-hmm.
You know? But to even go there,
Yeah,
if you don't do that, it's not, you can't, you will crash and burn, in my
yeah.
opinion.
And isn't it so normalizing for us, I think, and especially I know the types of people that listen to this podcast as well, it could be really normalizing to hear you, and permission giving as well, to hear you talking about these really successful people and knowing that behind the scenes there are these small steps. And I think hearing that myself, and I'm hoping for other people hearing that, I think it's such a good feeling to have, and think actually the small steps that I'm taking, they're there for a reason. I'm not weaker or less powerful for taking those small steps. And I just wanted to pause and highlight that, because I think that's such an important part of what you were sharing there.
Yeah, it is something that when I learned that, I found it incredibly liberating,
Mm.
incredibly like, oh my gosh, okay, so I don't have to beat myself up for not
Yes.
wanting to make that big change, you know, like
Yeah.
I can go like, yeah, you're good, you're fine, stop beating yourself up. And to go like, oh, and I'm still completely destined for huge things, even though you know, I don't want to jump off 100-foot cliff, or, you know, go bungee jumping to show my courage. Like, no, thank you. Uh, and and that is true also with the, you know, like smaller things that we do maybe in our businesses, and so like taking small steps sets us up for the big, you know, for the big ones, because otherwise we won't be able to hold it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love that. I think that's, yeah, got little chills on that one. I definitely 100% agree with that one. And I know that what you're doing in corporate, you're also supporting small businesses, aren't you, as well? So you've got that kind of bridge between the two. Can you talk to that a little bit? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, I love talking about that, because I mean, my mission is to change corporate culture, and I know it can be done. But I also know that if I want to do the worldwide bit, can't do it all on my own. And and I just want to bring the whole many facets and many colors of different experts who are amazing in their field and who can make a huge impact on corporates with their specific topics. I want to give them both the courage and the skills to take their zone of genius into corporates. So I'll give you an example. I was working with a breath worker, and she's incredible at helping people tap into their breath. And her passion was to work with maternity nurses. So we created an offer around her specific zone of genius, you know, her specific approach to breath work. And we created different ways how nursing agencies and hospitals can hire her, so that obviously she can support her family, but also she can take her passion to the people that, you know, who are there really stressed out, but they're bringing new life into the world. So it makes such a big difference. And it's kind of a beautiful um, shift that these hospitals therefore are experiencing. And, you know, she shares, and it makes me almost really emotional when she shares like some of the testimonials they get from people who are in such important positions, you know, not high ranking, quite the reverse, but on the ground, hugely important positions. So these are the, you know, people who have got a special skill, a special zone of the genius. I help them get into corporates by helping them create offers, by helping them create their messaging, because it's very different to online messaging, helping them to determine who they want to work with so that they can find them and get them in front of them. Do that through mentoring, coaching, as well as various courses that I run. And yeah, it's really rewarding. I love it.
And it is like it is a bridge, isn't it? Because by doing that, you are not only supporting, there's so many different things here. I hope I get everything that's in my brain right now. So you're not only supporting those small businesses to see their own business differently and to look at their audience differently and really kind of think outside the box, but you're also bridging that gap between those small businesses and those corporates. And then by the very fact that you're supporting those, you are in effect then changing the culture. So it's so multifaceted. Like there's so many different things going on there that's really supporting that bigger vision, isn't there?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it is I really want to create a movement. And as
Mm.
I say, my mission, I will never shut up about it, to change
Good.
corporate culture. Um, and to do that, we need a movement. You know, we as society, we can take a different approach. And if you are an entrepreneur, small business who wants to take part in that, you can take your work to corporates. They pay really well, so that's a very nice side effect. Um, and your impact will just be so great across so many people, and yeah, have that change in culture. How good will it be? I always say this, but how good will it be that when we in 10 years time talk about corporate culture, people won't think of it as toxic anymore? That would
Yeah,
be the dream. That is the dream.
yeah. It's such an amazing one. I think the conversation I would love to kind of go on from here on is really talking to the people out there who have small businesses, who are entrepreneurs, but have never really thought about almost pitching towards corporate because it feels scary, because it feels too serious, or whatever the word is that comes up for them. How do you help like those small businesses to feel like they can go and speak to those corporates?
Well, it's one of these things, and I didn't realize for a long time that I'm extremely good at it. It's my zone of genius, is to connect the dots between what a small business does, the kind of solution it provides, and how that can relate to a corporate. Because let's face it, there is not a single business in existence that doesn't solve a problem for somebody. Even, you know, even the most amazing donut bakery solves a problem that people want amazing donuts because they taste delicious. So every business solves a problem. And if the problem that you solve relates in any shape or way to humans, corporates want them because corporates are operated by humans. And even while I love AI and I use it all the time, corporations will still be run by humans for quite a long time.
Yeah.
And so if you are somebody who helps with stress, who helps with leadership, empowerment, emotional intelligence, breath work, I mean, literally anything, if what you do has, you know, touches a human as a result, you know, the human gets a result out of your work, then corporates will be interested. And what I always recommend to people is to look at, okay, if a corporate team, don't think of it as the big organization, because it's a mistake that many people might, you know, they think like, oh, I need to work with hundreds of thousands of people. Like, no, think of a team, say a team of mid-level managers, senior mid-level managers, 10 people. What kind of results would they get? So if they were less stressed, so if you're a stress coach, what would they get? Oh, they would be less stressed. Great. What would happen next as a result of that? Oh, well, if they are less stressed, they are less reactive to situations. Great. So if they're less stressed and less reactive, what happens then? Oh, well, they're able to communicate better with their team. Great. what happens when they communicate better? Oh, when they communicate better, then the environment is less toxic, but also people are more productive. Oh, and when they're more productive in a less toxic environment, what happens? Oh, they meet deadlines. And there we are. And that's kind of like the little stepping stones that you go, okay, if people are, get the result that you help them get, and, they will get it because you're a genius. What are the stepping stones that happen as a result? And that is what the corporate buy. So that's the way to think about it. How can you take what you do, and there are very, very few exceptions where I say it's hard to sell to corporate. What are the results of your work, and what happens to these people, and then connect them back to the corporate results.
Yeah. And that feeds into the message, doesn't it? And I would imagine how you would then talk to corporate, because you were saying earlier, something you said earlier is talking to corporates, and the messaging that you would use for them is very different to how you would use online. Is there any kind of any details there that you can give, or any specifics?
Yeah. Now here, and I see this a lot. And this is, in fact, I made those mistakes so much. So if you're a small business and you not yet have a huge reputation or a huge network, my big recommendation is that you start with small steps, which is not, by the way, does not mean it's not paid extremely well. And it also doesn't mean that you're not making a huge impact, but that you start out, instead of trying to create a huge solution for a particular organization, that you create some very specific micro outcomes for them, such as stress reduction for a particular team, or for example, I work with a lady who empowers female leaders from minority backgrounds, so it's a very specific outcome. So instead of creating a huge leadership program, she has focused on a particular aspect that she's passionate about and creates micro outcomes. And that is then, when you have that outcome, you can create your messaging around that. When I say messaging, is for corporates, it's really nowhere near as important to be on social media as it is for online entrepreneurs. Corporates are not going to buy your services from Facebook. Very unlike they buy it from Instagram. Even LinkedIn, it's not very likely that they come across you and go like, oh, this is exciting, I'm going to invite that person to a conversation. So I highly recommend that you look at other methods, and I'm happy to talk about what those other methods are, to really focus using your messaging. Just a quick word on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is still really good, and corporates will check you out on LinkedIn after they know about you. So yes, do have a position on LinkedIn, have your profile, and post occasionally, but you don't need to be there posting 10 times a day or anything like that. It's not like TikTok. Oh yeah, corporates will very unlikely buy from TikTok unless they want to buy TikTok services.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I love that, because I think as highly sensitives, which I know a lot of the people listening are, and as introverts, that almost feels like, whoa, that feels too good to be true. So I don't have to be on social media all the time. And yet I can still, I think that really does tick a lot of our boxes, doesn't it? Because we do get overwhelmed by the online noise. And I know that we do get sort of stuck in that comparisonitis, if you like, for a better word. I don't think that word actually exists, but
I think it's a good word. If it doesn't exist, it has to exist from now.
It's a good one, isn't it? But you do get stuck in that, and you then go down rabbit holes. I've spoken to so many different clients where they get stuck on, well, this is the way that we have to do it, and I'm just like, it's not the way. It's just what's worked for somebody else. It doesn't mean that it has to be your way. And I think what you're speaking to there is such a lovely way to have a business for somebody who is that highly sensitive and introverted entrepreneur, who has a small business. So I would love to hear what methods you do kind of support your clients with around not posting on social media, what would you say they do instead?
Right. So here is one thing to know, that if you're selling to corporates, they will not buy from social media, very unlikely. They are also not very likely to buy from your website. So that's one of the first things I tell a lot of my clients is, you tell me, oh, we're just in the process of setting up our website. I'm like, no, it's fine. Just have something really simple, 1 or 2 pages is perfectly fine. It doesn't need to be singing or dancing. Just show that you're a human being. That's it. It really doesn't have to be fancy. Corporates will buy from conversations. So your aim in everything that you do has to be to have a conversation. Now, I know this can feel really scary sometime, and I'll happily dive into a bit more into that after we talked about how you can get to that conversation, because I really want to take that fear away from people. So, but to get to have that conversation, here is something that you might find exciting or scary, but there is no one way. There absolutely is not. And trust me, I tried to find it. I looked everywhere, and there is no one way. Which again, I think is very liberating, because it gives you the freedom to go, okay, there are many ways, and they actually all work if they feel aligned to you, if they are right for you. So what are the ways? Ways are, you can email people. You can send them a series of emails. Obviously, you will have done your research, and you have messaged, great good messaging around your offers. And you don't just send one email, you have to send definitely several, but you send those, and they work. I have won amazing clients from cold messages. You can DM people on LinkedIn. Again, same rules as for the emails go. Don't do spammy stuff, because that does not work. But be prepared to send several, do your research. It works. Again, I have won amazing clients. Cold calling actually works. I personally don't do it because I don't actually like the phone.
Yep, I'm with you on that one.
Yeah, no, it's not me. I really just don't. I was so happy when Zoom and all that became common, because I prefer seeing people.
Yeah.
However, I do have one client, and she's incredible. She is so good. She'll pick up the phone, and she makes multi-six figures every year just purely from cold calling. So it works. It does work, but you have to be the kind of person that it works for. Networking, like going to certain events, yep, they absolutely work. It's actually one of my favorite ways of doing this, because plus I live in London, so it's relatively easy. But they don't have to be glossy events. So I've gone along to lectures, for example, at the Institute of Civil Engineers. So it was a topic that I was really interested in. And yeah, guess what? My ideal client hangs out there, because my ideal clients are engineers and companies in that field. And I got into conversation, and I meet amazing people this way. But somebody who might not enjoy networking situations, they go like, oh no, I wouldn't want to do that. And that's fine, because all the different methods work. Strategic partnerships can work amazingly. Speaking, podcasting, all of these things can work really, really well. I have one client who she doesn't actually like networking that much, and she hates emailing, but she speaks, and she loves speaking. So she's a kind of strange introvert by classic standards of introversion. But it's just that she feels really, really good on stage, but then needs, to recharge.
Yes.
Which, we all know is really, really common. So she uses that, and it works incredibly well. So what I help my clients do is find out what works for you, what feels aligned, what is right. And then we go down that particular route, because then that will be the right one for you.
I love that. And I think it actually does. I know you're saying it's a bit different, but I do see a crossover there. Like, I think definitely in my line of work, even though I work like one-on-one, I don't have clients if I don't have conversations. Like it has to come through. And I feel better as well as the person giving the service and providing the service if I have that conversation. And I think it's just remembering that people like people, don't they? They like to know people, they like to get to know them, whether that's like face to face in person or face to face over something like this. I'm very much like you, I'm not phone call. I think it's because I don't really, what am I trying to say? I think I underestimated how much I actually take of
Yeah.
facial expressions and things like that. And I feel completely lost when I'm on a phone. I hate it. I end up doing that. Yeah,
Yeah.
just, it's not fun. Um, so I love the fact that there are so many different ways to do that. And I love the fact that it really is down to the person. There's so many different things here that I think are wonderful, not only just generally for small businesses, but specifically for the types of people that are listening to this podcast, people who really do enjoy getting to know people on a deeper level, because it's that really strange push and pull, isn't it? We, like you were saying about your client who is very good on stage but still needs that time away.
Yeah.
Highly sensitive and introverts are very like that. We like the depth, we like having those conversations, we just need the flip side of that to go, okay, I'm just going to stare into space for a bit now.
Yes, absolutely, exactly. And I have seen people be so successful in so many different ways that I was like, okay, let's give up this search for the miracle pill, the magic wand, because it doesn't exist. And if it did, it'd probably be highly unsatisfying, you know, because we wouldn't have put any actual brought our own energy into it. And yet knowing that there are ways that are aligned with your energy, you can just follow that.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's so lovely and so beautiful. And I really know that a lot of people are going to be listening to this going, oh, I'd never thought about this is very different. I hadn't thought about getting clients this way or working with people this way. So first of all, how can they connect with you, but also what would be their first thing that you think, go and try this first or go and look at this first?
To look at how to get into corporate,
Yeah.
the first thing they need, the first two things. I always say like, oh, this is the first, then no, actually this one is first. And because you do need both of these. First of all, you need to understand, connect those dots of what your service is and how how it can help the human inside of a corporate. What can the corporate result be? And you don't need to have it worked out 100%, but you do need to understand that, okay, my work will improve, I don't know, productivity or help them save time or make employees more engaged, and therefore not everybody doesn't get sick or everybody leaves, all these kind of things. And there's actually not that many different types of results that are there, but you need to have that mental connection. Okay, my work helps in that way. So that's number one. The other part, and I'm really, if people can come away with this, I would be so happy, because many consultants, coaches, experts tell me, oh, but how do I find the decision maker? How do I find them? And there is a reality that is not talked about often enough by other people who teach what I do. And I didn't realize that I wasn't talking about it enough, so I'm trying to change that now. Is it's not about finding them, because most of the time people don't know who they're looking for. And this is why it's so important to do this at the beginning. Who do you actually want to work with? It's not good enough to say leaders in corporates. Well, there's hundreds of millions out there. You need to be a bit more specific. And I recommend that you get specific on the industry you want to work with. Is it retail? Is it manufacturing? Is it tech? Is it banking? Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. They're all good. Every single industry is fine, but pick one. At least at the beginning, pick one. And then decide, who do you want to work with in there? Is it female leaders from minority groups? Is it stressed out men who who are burning out because they can't admit that they don't have all the answers? Is it, you know, salespeople who are, getting burned out by the processes? Again, you need to pick that, because the moment you have picked it, then you can literally Google them. You can, I swear to you, you can go to Google and say, give me the operational leaders in, and you say it's banking in HSBC or in Lloyd's Bank or whatever not, and you will get a list of names. It is really not that difficult. You can go onto LinkedIn and search for them, but most people don't get to that part because they haven't decided who they really want to work with and who their work is for.
Mm.
So when you do these two things, the rest becomes kind of, you have to just steps that you walk through, a bit of a recipe.
Mm.
If you
Yeah,
if you know what ingredients you need, you can put them together and create a beautiful cake, right?
yeah,
But you need to have those ingredients.
yeah. And you were talking earlier about there being a lot of fear around people
Mm,
wanting to take that first step and maybe send that first email or send
yeah.
that first DM. What's your experience with that, and how do you help them through to kind of navigate through those first couple?
That's a really interesting question, because over the years that I've been doing this, I've learned that there is, funny enough, not one answer to this.
Yeah.
So I will share about one client who was in my world for quite a while, and she was not getting anywhere because she was not sending the messages. She was not reaching out. And instead, she would like try to learn more and like take another course. And, oh, you've just recorded this live. I need to learn more. And what that experience taught me is that and this is what I do now, is be really flexible in how I help people break through that. Funny
Mhm.
enough, for her, it needed to be a bit of a push.
Mhm.
And when I made that push, she didn't like it initially. That didn't like it. That lasted a day. And the next week, she had 3 opportunities. So the next week, I don't always push people because
Yeah, no, it's all
I'm not
different,
the
isn't
kind
it?
of person, I don't particularly enjoy that for myself. But I will always try to find different angles. If one doesn't work, then let's find a different angle. I have another client who needs to really get in touch with her inner energetics before she can
Mhm.
make a move. So we include exercises around that um, to really anchor her in. I have another client who just needed some tiny, tiny mindset shift tweaks. I mean, they were so small. They were literally a shorter conversation than we have just now. And I was like, oh, have you considered this? And she goes, oh, yeah, that just landed. And off she goes, winning clients. So I realize it's different for every single person. And my job as a coach is to find what are the different levers that will work.
I love that. And I love anybody who comes on and really does. This is a personal love of mine, but when somebody comes on and actually talks about true coaching. So I love the fact that, you said there that everybody is different and you are literally working with where they're at and what they're bringing. Because I think that is the power and the beauty of real coaching, isn't it? Is meeting them where they're at and figuring it out with them and then providing that support. Like you said, most of the time it's not a push, most of it's something that they need to feel safer or
Yeah.
more protected about taking that step. But I've got a couple of clients who every so often I'm like, it's a bit of a nudge, like just a
Yeah,
bit of a
exactly.
reminder, you know?
Come on, come on. You have everything that you need. You really are. You just need to have the courage. And I also am a big believer and this is something I got from a mentor of mine, that if we can, and I do this for myself, so I also try to help it to my client to do, we can sometimes try things on,
Mm.
approaches and methods. And if you take the thinking that, okay, I'm just trying this on, it's like I'm trying on this dress in a shop, I'm not necessarily buying it, but I'm trying it on. And if it fits, I will. And if not, I'll hang it back on the hanger. And our approaches to our business, can be like that. So, for example, I do say to my people, like, give cold calling a try. Do 3 calls, just 3. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? Pick the people you're least interested in working with. Take away the fear and just pick up that phone, leave a garbled message on the voicemail. It's fine. And sometimes they go, oh, this wasn't as bad as I thought. Oh, actually, I might try this again. Huh. But you wouldn't have known if you hadn't tried.
Yeah, yeah.
But you always, well, I do it because as an empathetic person, I always want to do that in a safe environment.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And it just reminds me of, I'm reading a book at the moment by Adam Grant called Hidden
Oh,
Potential.
yes.
Um, and it's really, really good. I'm not very far in at the moment, but I just generally like these because obviously I come from a teaching background as well. So I live about how we learn and all of that. And he's very much saying, you know, you don't learn by doing what you feel comfortable in. You learn by trying something different, something that you are actually almost avoiding. Like, what are you avoiding? And like you said, can you just try it on? Can you just see? You don't have to do that if it really does feel awful once you're doing it and it doesn't yield any results. But just try it on, see what it's like. And I love that. So that's really just what came to mind as you were talking through that.
Excellent. Yeah, I love, love, love that book. I can't wait for you to finish so we can talk about it.
It's a good. I was like, I'm nodding in the car, going, yes.
So good, so good. I actually saw him speak in London
Oh, did you?
last year, Christmas. Yeah, just before Christmas. He was very good. He was really interesting.
Yeah, he is very, very interesting. Anyway, we'll go off on a complete rabbit hole there, but yes, I do love that book, and I will put the link in the show notes for people if they want to check out the book as well. But I would love, love, love for you to share where people can get in touch with you because I think you've given such tangible action steps as well. I know so many people are going to want to connect with you and find out more. So how can they do that?
Well, there is my website, which is www.impactfulnesslab, all one word, .com. Or you can find me on Instagram at Impactfulness Lab. You can find me on LinkedIn at Miriam R. Gilbert. And you can find me on Facebook, again, as Miriam Gilbert, Win Corporate Clients. I should say I do actually have a free Facebook group where I provide 15, 20-minute free coaching every Friday at 2 p.m. So in a little while. And where people can, drop questions in a thread in the days before, and I then just go through, or if somebody sends me a question, I answer that there. If they're in the group, if they're around, I bring them on live if they want to. They don't have to, but it's a great way to, get some tips, get some insights, get some highly specific feedback as well.
Yeah, I love that. And just the last question that came up for me, do you work when you're working with the small businesses and entrepreneurs, do you work one-on-one with that or is it a group type thing? How do you work with those people?
I do arrange. It's exactly how I work with corporates. I
Yeah.
always offer arrange, but yeah, no, I offer arrange. So I do one-on-one coaching, which is completely bespoke, obviously. I also have a membership that is small group coaching plus access to all my instant access training courses. It's, to be honest, anybody who looks into getting into more corporates, that's the best place to start because it's not quite the same commitment as one-on-one coaching, but you get my hands and eyes and brain on everything you do, plus you get lifetime access to all the courses that allow you to build out what you need to do. And I do have a range of instant access courses as well, which generally have once a quarter a life aspect to it. So you get instant access to the learning, and then once a quarter we get together and we talk about implementation. So there is a range. All of these are on the website. But obviously, if people are interested, they can just get in touch with me as well via social media or email, and be very happy to chat.
Well, I will make sure all of those links go in the show notes as well. And thank you for such really insightful and interesting conversation. I've absolutely loved it. And I know I would. I was so excited about this one because it was so different and unique. But thank you so, so much. Is there anything you would like to sort of round off before we say goodbye?
I just want to say thank you very, very much for the opportunity to let me talk about the mission to change corporate culture. Hashtag rehumanize work. And I really, really would love to connect with anybody who is interested in doing that work, whether they want to work with me or not, I don't really care. It's I think we can create such a tidal wave of change, and be very excited for that.
And it's just, I love that. I think it's so much bigger than just the individual work, isn't it? It's that movement you were
Ah,
talking about before, and I think that's so important.
absolutely. Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so, so much. Yeah, go and check her out, go and connect with her, and I'll be back next week with another episode, guys. Send you love. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. If you have any takeaways or any questions, please do reach out to me either through Instagram, LinkedIn or Facebook at Kate Carter Coaching, or you can email me at kate@katecarter.co.uk. I always love to hear your feedback and the things that you have taken from the podcast. If you know of any other highly sensitive people, then please do share this so that I can reach more and support more highly sensitive people to embrace their strengths and gifts. As a thank you, I will pick a winner every month for a free 50-minute coaching session with me. Thank you so, so much.